not funny, but so I was actually working on a story, another article about something else. And so I wasn't looking at my phone or anything. I'm trying to get this article
I
written.
missed it too.
And I see a text come from the group text, and it's somebody who is not very active in our group. Like, he follows along. So when he sends something, I was like, because Nikki said, "Oh, what did he send?" She was like, "What did he send?" Because he never like because he's really busy with stuff, and so he just kind of is,
Must be big if
with the
he's
conversation.
posting.
But when he contributes to the conversations, there's generally a reason why. So we both were like, okay. So I stopped what I was doing, opened the text message, and there's the press release. And I read the press release, and then I was like, this is legit, right? Like, this is from AEW's account. It's not like a fake, like, you know, how they'll have like an AVW account and it's not really AEW's account. Like, I was like, God, this is like the legitimately this before I start sending it to people.
A3W1659420 underscore.
Is this the troll account? And so I even checked, my email was open, and I was like, did they send out a press release to the media? Like, is this like, and they didn't, but sometimes they don't. So then I was like, well, that doesn't mean it's not legit. And I was like, no, that says AEW and it's got the check mark. Like, this looks legit. So I'm going to send this. So I sent it to every single, so I'm in 4 Slack groups related to wrestling, and I sent it to everybody. So I was the one who got to break the news to everybody. And I was like, okay, this is real. It is like 6 o'clock. It's like, Collision's going to be on in 2 hours.
Yep.
Tomorrow's the pay-per-view. And so I was talking to one of my editors, and I was like, he was like, we need somebody on this. And I was like, well, I'm in the middle of another article right now, but I can, you know, hop on this. And he was like, please, we need to get something out immediately. This is a huge story. Please get on it. And
at least you get a lot of good practice writing. So
this is true.
I mean, it's
so then, like,
eventually, like, you'll be glad that you had to do all this crap. Okay, one day you'll be sitting there going, "I'm glad I had to write that stupid CM Punk article, though." Yeah, there'll be one thing you learn from it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and so I was like, let me stop what I'm doing. Listen, I've written plenty of breaking news stories on Vince McMahon the last year and a half. So I was just like, okay. So it's like, sorry. So I was actually writing an article about Calvin Tankman. He is now a free agent. He left MLW. So poor Calvin Tankman. I was like, sorry, buddy. I gotta put you on hold for a couple of hours. So I'm trying to get this out. My Slack is going off, in like multiple Slacks are like, oh my God, what happens? Some people in Slack then there was some like turn into a little bit of an AEW locker room where, you know, no physicality, but there was a lot of bickering back and forth. And I was like, and my phone Slack is like, ding, ding. I was like, I'm about to have to mute this. Then my text groups are I have multiple text groups going off about what's happening. And I was like, just got to get this article out. So
I'm so glad that I keep my notifications. It's so funny because the Fight Game Media Slack things doesn't always work. Sometimes the notification pops up and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know what that's about. And I really haven't like looked into rectifying it. So,
hey, I understand. But yeah,
it was hilarious for me because I watched Jim Valley's show, and I listened to Observer Live with him and had some good fun and went off to make some homemade barbecue sauce and do some ribs and whatever else.
Far better use of your time.
I walked away from my phone. And then my wrestling group lit up.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a small group, but it was like buzzing. And I'm like, what's up, you guys? Yeah. And I just went in there and all it said was, sayonara, Phil. And I was like, oh dear. And I did this. I looked at the clock and I was like, what? I'm like, I'm about to start my grill.
Yeah, Mel messaged me and she was like, I guess our show for tomorrow just took a turn, and I didn't get to answer her for like an hour and a half because I was trying to I was like, I gotta answer
I figured you had heard
trying
before
to write
me.
this out, and then I was like, I have to go back. I was like, I've got to stop looking. And then of course I'm looking at the internet to see if there's other things coming out. Was there anything about Jack Perry?
Well, and then I went to my channels and the people that I trust that predict or tell or like, I went to the sources that I was like, are you like, no, come on. Come on. Yeah. And then I went to one of my circles of truth, and sure enough, it was the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right.
It was just, I was just like, I mean, I guess like it wasn't unexpected, but then on the other hand, maybe it's because of the timing. I mean, like, of course, like, I don't think I don't think this was like, let's drop this now so people tune into Collision. Like, I don't think it was anything like that. Like, I think they were.
It was that at all.
I don't think there's some big grand thing that, oh, this is going up against Payback. We got to send Tony out here to make a statement. Like, I don't think there.
And I would be
any type. I mean, it was smart to open with that going up against when Payback. Like, Tony's not stupid, but I don't think it was this big scheme of like Payback.
Oh no, there was.
O'clock.
I don't gotta drop
that this. Like, I don't think it was anything like that. Then I saw last night. I saw this theory, and I think it's one of those Twitter accounts. It was the verified Twitter accounts. I think it's one of those accounts that clearly gets paid for engagement by Twitter. So they just say shit and then walk away. Somebody responded to it was like they responded to, I think it was Fightful, and it was the clip of Tony addressing the audience, and she was like, I think this is a work, and was talking about like his hand gestures or like whatever dumb reasons she thought it was a work, and she was like, this is somebody responded and said, so she claims she thinks it's a work. I think she was getting engagement to get paid by Twitter, probably. But then somebody responded and said, this is Vince McMahon versus Stone Cold, except for the people are supporting the corporation. I was like, you guys, it's not what's happening. I know that we have a lot of people have WWE brain, and we've seen things play out, and sometimes you stop and question, like, am I being worked?
They are making politics Twitter look really smart sometimes.
And so I was just like, but I just kept scrolling because I was like, that's clearly, I think this is not that I do think some people do think these things. Like, I don't think that, but I think the person who originally posted, she had like 100,000 followers. She's got a blue check mark that she pays for. I was like, she's probably one of those accounts that gets paid for engagement or whatever. But I was just like, and I guess like some people were just, I think, surprised that Tony came out on Collision, because before, he's not really public. Like the last time when Brawl Out happened and all that stuff, he didn't like go on. Obviously, didn't go on. Well, actually, he did. He went on TV and said that there were suspensions, so he did do that, but it wasn't the whole like, I guess, explanation behind it. But I think part of the reason Tony did that is because he was criticized so much, because he didn't shut the scrum down when CM Punk was like going off on a tangent. He just let him say what he had to say. And again, we've talked about some people are not good in reactionary situations like that. It takes them a while to process. And so, we've had our conversations about why he did or didn't do things. But I think because there had been so much on Tony about how he handled it the first time, that he did something different this time, as far as going out, grabbing a chair, sitting down, addressing the fans directly. Obviously, it was pre-recorded to play at the very beginning. When he first came out, before he started explaining stuff, he was getting booed out of the building by fans. And then it sounds like from people who were in the building that I've seen, like a couple of my editors were in the building, a couple other people I follow on Twitter were in the building, and they were saying that the fans in the beginning, a lot of them obviously were booing him, but then as he was going, they kind of realized, okay, this is a really serious situation. He did what he had to do. There was a committee behind it that recommended that he fired CM Punk. There's legal who requested, who thought the same thing, and Tony even said in his statement, at the end of the day, it is my decision. I did this thing, and it seemed like fans kind of, because I didn't really hear like on TV, like it wasn't a hijacking of the show of people chanting, CM Punk's name. There was a guy dressed.
There was a start of it, but it really seemed like there were a few times that happened.
Yeah, it never caught on, as in like it picked on the TV. There was a guy who was dressed like LA Knight who tried to start a what chant at Tony Schiavone. But there wasn't it wasn't the hijacking that people, I mean, who knows what All Out's gonna be like. I mean, that could be a completely different story, especially you have people who probably tailgated and been drinking things of that nature. But I think him kind of getting out ahead of it probably did help kind of chill, because wrestling fans are wrestling fans. Some are just gonna be jerks and they're just gonna boo and make it about themselves and all of that type of stuff anyway. But I think I'm hoping for the most part that people don't you know, that they don't tonight, that they're not out there calling for him and things like that, and like hijacking the show and making it about themselves that way, the wrestler, because the wrestlers on the card, like it's not their fault. Like Nikki pointed out, this was like the stuff with MJF and Wardlow, like they almost ruined Wardlow's night because we were on on MJF watch, and is he in Vegas, is he getting on the plane, like is it all of this? And so it was kind of that stuff, like, which is another reason I think that Tony came out last night, because not only is the CM Punk stuff he was criticized for, he was criticized for how he handled MJF before, because this isn't the first time this stuff has happened, and it has happened with other wrestlers. And so I think that last night was Tony kind of finally he did, I guess, what a lot of fans expected him to do the last time, or with the MJF situation and things like that. And so this time around, he's like trying to make people understand, like, and so I guess I can see why people thought that this was his version of the Mr. McMahon character.
I don't see that.
I don't think that's what's happening here.
That's not what I saw at all. As a matter of fact, I don't think that this makes Tony happy at all. I think that Tony wanted Punk more than anybody. I think it probably is very depressing to Tony.